Thank you. Again, John Todd with Quad 9. So this will be no slides really. It's kind of a temperature taking of the room and a proposal here. So I've got 2 of 3 audience participation questions here. First question is, how many of you or your companies run recursive resolvers for more than 10,000 users in the room? Okay, good, a pretty good count. So the next, and I hope that the answer is most of those, how many of you know what NTAs are? Okay, excellent. So NTAs, negative trust anchors, essentially, for those of you who don't know what it is, basically it is a way of saying that a DNSSEC path on a domain space is going to essentially be turned off. So for some period of time, hopefully not forever, you simply say, we're not going to be doing DNSSEC validation on this namespace. It breaks the chain of trust for that namespace, and also then, of course, breaks the chain of trust for the end user. It is typically not visible in any meaningful way to the end user. There are ways of signaling it in the DNS, but someone who's actually browsing the web is not going to actually see that. In fact, probably not even a reasonably sophisticated user is not looking at NTA invalidation or NTA DNSSEC invalidation. It's an important and I think an under discussed operational risk because NTAs do happen. And referring back to one of the previous discussions here, it changes the perception of DNSSEC if NTAs are done in a non-transparent way. So that's back to Barbara's discussion earlier. Visibility is better than opaqueness, in our opinion, and keeping things hidden like NTAs creates hidden suspicion. So NTAs are unfortunate, but sometimes required. The example that I like to use is Bangladesh. Last year, 2024, due to an inadvertent failure, .bd sort of went off the air. And so a number of providers sort of rushed to put in NTAs for BD until they fixed their problem. It was not a malicious action, it was just a mistake. So an NTA sort of spans the gap to keep that on the air. Our general opinion is that NTA should not be inserted, but there are conditions where your customer base or your operational reality say that they do have to be inserted. So what we have not seen, and this is including Quad 9, we've not seen transparency with NTAs, meaning that there is no standardized way where NTAs are discussed as something that needs to be transparent or published like a privacy policy, or there's no standardized way of actually putting this even on the website. So we would propose, and this is where I'm going to kind of get to the audience participation again, NTA transparency as a parallel adjunct to privacy policies or security policy documentation and publications. And then we want to get into some specifics. I would expect, and this is where I'm going to ask for your help and feedback after this talk, is there an interest in this? We would suggest things like the namespace, the start and the end time of an NTA insertion into a recursive resolver infrastructure, the reason for the NTA insertion, the reason for the NTA withdrawal, would all be things that would be public and permanently published on a site so that someone would be able to go back and say, hey, at this particular date and time, was this namespace in an NTA policy state or not? So that they could determine if there was a risk over that period of time. And so my question, again, last audience participation, do people think that NTAs should be something that is publicly published for recursive resolvers so that anyone can look that up and historically examine whether an NTA was inserted or not? Raise hands if they think that that's a useful thing. Okay, great. So that sort of leads me to kind of next steps where I'll start to put together a document and see if this is something that we can create, not necessarily an industry standard, but sort of a rough consensus on publishing this for recursive resolvers. And so if you run a recursive resolver and you're interested in this, please contact me. There are technical components to work out this. There are policy components to work out. As an example, maybe this is an EDE message. That I think that was a suggestion from Puneet. Maybe there's signaling we can do underneath this, which is technical, but also I think there's a significant policy component. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you offline.